Good morning. Let's see, is this working? Can you let me know in the chat if this is working? Just so I know that I'm not talking to myself. Hey, Tess and Kylie. Only two people today. All right. Nice and easy. We're going to be talking today about Google My Business. And I assume that you already have some understanding of what it is, because otherwise you probably wouldn't have signed up for this webinar. But can you tell me a bit about the business that you have and what sort of an experience you might have had already with Google My Business? I'm going to start sharing my screen. Let's have a look. Okay, here we go. We're signed in. Yes, cool. Okay, so Google My Business is probably one of the main things that I would recommend any small business owner to get involved with. If you see any stuff happening on the background, by the way, that is my 4-month-old kitten who is basically trying to break down the house. All right, let's not get distracted. New business purchase last year. What sort of business is it, Tess? And do you have access to your Google My Business account? I suppose when you bought the business, that would have been handed over. All right, so we're going to look at a few things, online and retail. Okay, cool. Hi. Give me 1 second. He's trying to break stuff. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so what we're going to be looking here, I'm going to jump into one of these accounts that I manage as one of my private clients. This is the one that I typically use because he's got some good stats. All right, photography business, just photography. Okay, so yeah, that works fine. So online retail and photography works fine because people are always looking for photographer near me and those types of terms, right? So you should be okay. Okay, so if we're going to jump into the profiles, first and foremost, how do you get to Google My Business? When you search for Google My Business on Google, or you just use your business name, typically these are the best ways to get into. Hold on, I need to turn off my notifications. These are typically the easiest way to get into Google My Business. You just want to make sure that you're logged in on the top right-hand side to your Google profile that actually manages your account. Because if you don't have access to your Google profile, in that case, you won't be able to see your actual Google business profile. Now I've got a few different businesses that I manage on here, so it will look slightly different for me than it will for you, because once you log into Google My Business, typically you'll only have a single account, and what you will look at is this will show up as a section on your Google homepage as soon as you search for Google My Business or a Google Business Profile. This will give you a couple of things. Profile strength indicator, for example, if it says that you're missing a few pieces of information, then it'll say, look, it's an average strength profile. Please go and finish up some of these other things that we recommend in order for you to get better visibility. So I'm going to just jump straight into this. Does this look familiar, by the way? Have any of you seen this before, or is this a new screen that you're looking at right now? Okay, we got Sarah as well. Good morning. Not familiar? Okay. So yeah, I would recommend, if you're on a computer right now, just maybe let's say if you're on a computer, try to follow along. So what we're trying to do here is having a quick look at what the options are that you can basically edit and manage and tweak and adjust. First thing I'm going to look at is the statistics or the performance. And this will give you an indication of how well one of these can actually work for. I need to just turn something off here because I keep getting these notifications. There we go. So yeah, sorry. If I click on performance, this is a pop-up that comes up, and this will basically give us all the information that we want to know about how well is our profile actually doing in Google. And in the last 6 months, that's basically the time frame that I'm going to be looking at here. We can see a couple of things here with one of my clients. So business profile interactions basically just means that how many people have actually did something with the profile when they were searching for something on Google. And that means that in this case, this could have been as you can see, if you mouse over the little icon, it could be people calling, sending a message, making bookings, asking for directions, and some other things, right? So anytime somebody actually interacts with the profile, it'll show up in here. So you can see here, he roughly gets maybe 150-ish on average per month in terms of how many people actually engage. And we're going to go a little bit deeper in terms of how these people are actually engaging with his profile in this case. Now, if you scroll down a little bit, it says there's a section here that says, look, out of 11,539 people who viewed the business profile in the last 6 months, we know that only 782 people took action, but essentially, yeah, that's typical because it means that this business profile might have been viewed. It could have just been on the first page of Google when somebody was looking for specific services, right? So in this case, our client, if I search for a tile cleaner Perth, for example, so this is obviously his business. He's a tile cleaner and grout cleaner here in Perth. And if I search for tile cleaner Perth, which is essentially his main keyword, we find that the first section here on Google is always going to be ads, paid advertising. Then the second part here is your Google My Business, right? What it means is that you're on the first page, you're above the actual organic results, as we would call them, the SEO results. And that's basically, it's a much nicer looking listing as well, right? It's much more eye-catching because it's got like the additional buttons, got the map, it's got the star rating, etc., and so forth. So this is the client that we're just looking at the moment, Tile and Grout Cleaning Perth. You can see here, I manage that business profile, which is this one. So what it means is if somebody is looking for a tile cleaner Perth and he comes up, this is basically because it comes up on the first page and it's in my screen, it basically shows up as a how many people viewed my business profile. Now, it means people didn't actually click through it. Only these 782 people in the last 6 months have actually clicked through to it and did some stuff with it. All right, so next up here on the right-hand side, we can see some of these searches that showed our business profile in the search results. And what it means is these are the keywords that people use on Google specifically, which triggered our profile to show up on their device. Let's see if Google is actually going to show this. Still thinking about it. Here we go. So these are typically the searches that people would use for Google to trigger the profile to be shown. So grout cleaning Perth, tile cleaning Perth, tile and grout cleaning in Perth, bathroom cleaners Perth, tile and grout cleaning machine hire. So these are typically sort of the keywords that we're getting found for. And this will give you a great bit of data in terms of, hey, what are people looking for? What are we getting found for? And are some of these things like bathroom cleaners Perth, we're already ranking for this, and if we're not offering this as a service, maybe we should consider adding that as a service because we know people are actually finding us for these keywords. Plus, these keywords can all be used on your SEO. So if you have a website, besides your business profile, you can actually glean some information here and say, right, we know that people are looking for these specific keywords, so let's start building some more content around these types of keywords, some extra pages, some articles, because we know Google is most likely going to show us as we're relevant to these terms. So it's just a good little data source to tap into when you kind of want to know a little bit more about your search engine optimization and getting found. All right, back to performance. We're going to go through these tabs here, right? So the first tab here we sort of covered. The last thing I would say here is this will actually show you the breakdown between desktop and mobile visitors. This is a pretty even breakdown. So 60% mobile, 40% desktop. Typically, you'll find that most businesses these days have a much higher mobile, so 80 to 90% of mobile visitors, and then 10 to 20% desktop. In Scott's case, like the business he's in, the people who typically would actually order his services are probably a little bit older. And that reflects here that there are still a lot of people actually just sitting down using an old computer or a laptop or something along those lines. But yeah, you'll find that this will give you a good indication of, hey, if there's 80 or 90% of people using my service profile on mobile, we probably want to make sure that our website is actually working perfectly fine on a mobile device, right? Because Google is mobile first, which means that they prioritize mobile results over traditional laptop and desktop results. Okay, so the next tab here, we have phone calls, and this basically shows us how many calls every month people made. Now, what you'll do is if I open up this profile here, and people will actually look at this profile, as soon as somebody clicks on the call button, or just clicks on the phone call number button here, that becomes attributed to, that it gets added to this dashboard here. So we know that on average, he said a pretty average steady 25-ish on average calls a month. So he gets like 1.2 phone calls a day, purely from his business profile, people asking for a quote. So these are basically hot leads, ready to go. They know what they want. They're just basically clicking on, hey, Scott, can you tell me what the pricing is? What's the availability? How quickly can you get it done? This is, by the way, the only channel we use for Scott in terms of his business. We don't do any ads. We don't do any SEO. We used to do SEO for him like 10 years ago. We basically just get everything from Google Business Profile, and he's booked out 4 to 6 weeks in advance all year round. As you can see, he gets plenty of people reaching out, so you can pick and choose, which is fantastic. Okay, the next section here is messages. Now, messages is essentially an additional button that will show up on your profile on your mobile device. It'll say send message. And what it does, it actually lets people, if they don't want to make a phone call and they don't want to send out an email, or they don't want to just visit the website, they just want to have a quick chat, they can click on that. And basically what happens is Scott is going to get a message. We haven't, I'll get into that in a minute, but basically that message has an automated reply that tells people that, hey, we're probably busy, but if you really want to get a quote, then take the following action. So what it does, it actually captures a few people who would have otherwise left. So I would always recommend, even if you don't want to respond to the messages, or you have no time, Scott on average takes about 5 hours to respond, simply because if he's on a job, that'll take him a couple hours. He'll be busy, so he doesn't actually quit work when he gets an inquiry. He basically finishes the job and then he jumps on to his chat. Now, we've only re-enabled his chat recently because we've had it off for the longest time. But then we realized, look, if we turn this on and we have that automated message, we can still capture people who would have otherwise left. And it's working really well. So he basically turned it off initially because he didn't want to respond to the messages. He was too busy. And I said to him, you don't actually have to respond, just at your own pace. And he's fine with that now. So, and I'll get to what those messages look like, but I would recommend, if you have that option available to you, always have that enabled. Bookings. Now, this is when you typically have like a booking form where people actually have to make an appointment, like depending on your business. Obviously, Scott doesn't need bookings, so we have no data in there. And then we have website clicks. So this is essentially when somebody goes to the profile, they clicked on the profile, they had a look at it, and they will click on the actual website link here. That then gets attributed to this report here. So we know that, look, on average, he gets about 100-ish visitors a month that have looked at his profile and then clicked through to his website. Now, if you probably, and I'll actually go to the website, just letting you know, we did not build this website. This was inherited. Scott came to me about 10, 11 years ago for some SEO work. So we did some SEO work for him. We didn't really want to change the site at the time. It looks like it's from from a long time ago. The thing is, this site, even though it looks not great, he is still ranking on the first page of Google as well. Not just his business listing, but if I search for Tarquin Perth, so it's one of his main keywords. So obviously he's got his main business listing, but he also still has number 5 on organic results. So he still gets people clicking through here as well, right? And these clicks that come through here don't actually get added to sorry, where did I put it? It doesn't get added to the analytics that we just looked at in the business profile itself. So you can imagine he actually gets a significant amount of traffic to that old website. The reason we're not changing it is because he's ranking really well. He's #1 on Google Places. He's #5 on SEO. It converts because what happens is when people click on his website, I've already had that open. If people click on his website, what happens is there's a button here that says click here to call. And if I would click on that, that would actually initiate a phone call, right? So if it's not broken, don't fix it. We don't want to do anything with this because it's converting. He doesn't care if it looks good or not. Any changes we make to this website to make it look better can only have a negative effect on his ranking because he's already that high up that it's much easier to drop in ranking rather than to get a little bit higher. Anyway, back to the order of things. So if we jump back into his profile, and we look once again at his analytics and his statistics, here we go, performance. We can then assume that 637 people in the last 6 months, so roughly just over 100 people a month visiting his website. A number of those people will still actually make a phone call here. So imagine if it's only 20% of people, 10% of people who want to get a quote once they visit the website. That's an addition on top of the other calls that we've already recorded here. So now all of a sudden he gets probably about 2.5 calls a day, every single working day, based on his profile and ranking alone. Does that make sense? And can you see how this could potentially work for you if you would have solid rankings and you're actually you're getting the traffic through here? Like imagine having no issues at all, getting people on the phone consistently, asking you for your service, right? That's a great spot to be in. Okay, then I'm going to jump into some of these other bits and pieces here. So now we looked at the stats, we can see the performance, we know that this can really work well. Now we're going to look at, okay, how does this actually work, right? What are these things that are part of the profile that could really make a difference? So if I go into the profile itself, no, that's not the one I want to use. I'm just going to say, I'm going to go into the profile itself. So typically what I would say is treat this is your profile, treat this as a mini website because it becomes a much more easier thing to consider that way, because now you know, right, if this is a website, a mini website, a single page website, anything that I would have on my regular website, I potentially want to have on here as well, because at the end of the day, Google will look at this profile and it'll look at the content, it looks at the structuring, it looks at the photos, whatever you have on there, and it makes a decision, right, how relevant is this listing for a keyword like towel cleaning Perth? Like basically what they look for is document relevancy, and they go, right, if somebody's looking for towel cleaning Perth or towel cleaning near me or grout cleaning near me, whatever it might be, if the business we're talking about here, in this case, tile and grout cleaning Perth or dirty grout, is relevant, and according to Google, they're going to be #1 or #2 or #3. So if you get into the top 3, you're going to get to that first page on Google. So treat it as a mini website. Don't just have it as a profile that you think, oh, it's just a random profile we have and we just put some bits and pieces on it. Because if you do that, you're not going to be in the top 3. You're going to end up in the top 30, where nobody will really scroll down. Typically, if you're in an area that might have a lot of competition, it's going to be harder for you to obviously rank. But if you're in an area where there's only a few people and somebody might search for towel cleaning near me, which is another very popular term, you'll see now that we have an actual, these are sponsored. There's Kathy or Kathy, I'm not sure how that works, pronounces, but they're actually ranking higher, and it's a pressure washer listing. They're ranking higher than our own listing here, right? Because what Google does is they try and figure out, okay, when you say near me, where are you? They're going to try and figure out which location are you at, and they're going to look at their map results and say, well, we believe that this business here is close enough to you in order for you to believe that this might be a relevant result. So if I drag the map results around, you'll see that this actually changes on the left-hand side. Cleaner Co. all of a sudden is now #1. If I go all the way up here to whoever lives here, we can see once again the listings change here. So whatever the map believes where I'm at, that's what they're going to show me the relevant results for. If I just use the homepage of Google and search for that same thing, You know, once again, they're going to try and figure out where are you located. So if you're on a mobile device, depending on where you are, so let's say you want to get a quote, you're at home and you're going to the office, which is 25 kilometers away. You might request, hey, tile cleaning near me. You're going to get very different results rather than being at home and asking for the same query. So keep that in mind, that Google will look at how close is an actual local business that's relevant for the search term. Okay, so we're going to just jump into a couple of things. We're going to look at how to edit this profile. And once I click on the edit profile button here, a couple of things. We have a few tabs here, and essentially they just, if you can see the blue line, it just scrolls down. So it basically just skips through a part of the actual single page here. But we're going to start off with the business name, right? Now, if anybody paid close attention, Tile and Grout Cleaning Perth, his business name is not actually Tile and Grout Cleaning Perth. His website is Dirty Grout. His business name is Dirty Grout. So typically, what we did a few years ago, and we were one of the first ones to test and try this, right? So we started adding the main keyword plus location as the business name. It's a bit cheeky, but Google said, hey, that's fine. You're still very descriptive of what your actual business does. So we're going to let you, we're going to allow this. Now, what happens is, if I would change this to Dirty Grout as the business name, chances are most likely that I'm going to drop off the rankings, right? Because all of a sudden I don't have that title, the document title. Remember, we're talking about a mini website here. So the document title in this case, so the header is title, is the actual service plus location. If I turn it into Dirty Grout, chances are if somebody looks at Tile Cleaning Perth, we're going to be number 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So this is a very important indicator to Google to say, what is this result actually about? Now, what you'll find is that people have started doing the same thing over the last few years. So Tile Cleaning Perth, what happens here is that some of these people, I think I'm zoomed in too much. Yeah, that's probably better. So what happens here, A1 Carpet, Tile and Grout Cleaning, you can see that they've added the actual Tile and Grout Cleaning next to their brand name. Eco Grout Clean, Tile and Grout Cleaning, they started adding the same thing. So the actual service in there. Some of these other Grout Cleaning Perth, they started using the same things. So people started adding the service plus location, but the brand name up front. I would recommend, like, we're not touching our account, right? Like I said, we're ranking so well, like any changes we make to this account can only have a negative effect. So what I would recommend, if you've got a new profile or an existing profile, you might actually say, well, we've only got a business name that's not really relevant to what we actually do. Go in the business name, change it into your service plus location or product plus location, and then maybe have you can have your brand name, right? So you can say Dirty Grout as a brand name, or you can have a dash or whatever you want to do. I would always say service plus location and then your brand name. So don't do it the other way around. This is a bit of a hack, I suppose, or a bit of a trick to try and get yourself ranked a little bit better. Does it make sense, by the way, why this is important? Like why the main keyword in your title is probably one of the more important indicators to Google what you're about and how relevant you might be to that search query that a user might have. You got it? All right, cool, awesome. So let me know in the chat, what would you rename or what would you name your actual Google business profile as? You need a physical address to verify, but you can hide it after the fact. And I'll show you how to do that because that's a question I get all the time. Okay, business category. That's the next important step here. So you can see here that our business category was updated by Google, and we have to click on accept to say, right, okay, we're gonna accept your change. What happened is previously the primary category that Google gave us, you can see if I start typing here, it'll give me an automated suggestion. These are the pre-populated categories that they have in store. Like they used to have different ones, and the ones we used used to be cleaning service. They've since removed that one, and they said, look, you need to change to a different category because we changed our categories. For the longest time, we had like a big red exclamation mark to say you need to update your listing category because it doesn't exist anymore. But then a few weeks ago, they finally actually made us change, and they now set it to not set. I still haven't accepted this because, once again, we are still number one, even though our current business category is not set. What I think is, once we accept this and we have to go back in here and say, right, we're going to have to update our a category. Basically, Google's going to reset the fact that, okay, you're in a different category now. I think we're still in the same category. Google just wants me to hit accept, so that clears the slate on their end. Anyway, that's just me being a bit of a nerd and saying, yeah, no, I don't trust you, Google. So cleaning, if you can see here, if I search for clean, the cleaning service doesn't come up. There is cleaners, and I could potentially go for cleaners, but there is no tile cleaners, there's no grout cleaners, there's no bathroom cleaners. So it's it's one of those businesses that has a very broad top category. So I would go for cleaners if I would actually change this. And I might do that in the next couple of weeks, depending on, we keep a close eye on the rankings, and we want to make sure that we don't lose any rankings. So as soon as something starts happening, we probably will go in here and accept and set it to cleaners. Now, what I would say, you can have several categories here, right? So you can actually add up to 5, I think. Oh, they just keep going, actually. That must be new. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I was saying that 8 or 9 categories. What I would always recommend is keep it to 2 maximum. And reason being, I see some businesses, they add a lot of different categories in here, but they're all sort of, what happens, the more categories you add in, the more it dilutes the actual main core focus of the business. So most businesses will have 1 or 2 core focuses, and then they've got a bunch of services around that sort of support those core categories. So I would say 1 or 2 of the main core categories is more than enough. You can go into services afterwards and add as many services as you like. Just be careful that you don't add too many categories, simply because what happens, I see people, there'll be an online store, but there'll also be a delivery service. There will also be a shop online service. Like they'll add whatever sort of things they can imagine. They add them as their top categories. And basically what it means is that if you have 9 different categories that sort of have a lot of overlap, and you have a competitor who's only got 1 or 2 main core categories, Google is most likely going to prefer them over you, simply because the focus is much stronger there, right? They're basically saying, we only do this one thing, and we only do these 2 things. And if people are looking for that, they need to come to us. Whereas you sort of show up as, how we kind of do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And you know what I mean? It's not as pointed. Okay, so I would say 2 maximum, but obviously this is all up to testing. So feel free to do some testing. And I would always say, if you can add a new category, keep it for a couple of weeks, see how your ranking gets impacted. If it's a positive impact in your ranking, keep it. If it doesn't, then just get rid of it again. So this is how we would always be testing things. Okay, next section here is the description, and this gives you a little bit of an option to add a little bit of information about, consider this the about us on your website. So this is your mini website once again. So this says from Tile Grout Cleaning Perth, so from Dirty Grout, or from your business name. This is your actual description, your about section, which comes from here. Now, if you want to be smart about it and you understand that it is a bit of a mini website and Google will look at it as a search engine, all the content in here, all the keywords that we use will be picked up by Google, right? So Google is going to check, okay, what is this profile talking about? Like, what's the document relevancy once again? So it's not just the title. They look at these things. And what we try and do, you get up to 750 characters, so try to use as many of those as you can without looking spammy. So this is a bit of an elevator pitch, but what we've done, we've added a few of our keywords in there, right? So Perth Tile and Grout Cleaning is obviously one of the combinations of the keywords that we're trying to get ranked for. And we basically weave that into the text as a normally written and readable text. And then we have another one, we have Tile and Grout Cleaning. We've added that again. So we have 2 sections of keywords that we added in, but the whole description looks natural and not spammy without, keyword stuffing. Sometimes I see businesses that use the same types of keywords like 6, 7, 8 different times, and it really reads like, hey, we're trying to rank for this one keyword, but we try to actually have this as an elevator pitch where we're telling people that this is why you should be doing business with us. We're a family-owned business. You can be confident that you will get the best service results every single time. So it is a bit of a marketing pitch, a sales pitch, but make sure that you use the keywords that you have in the copy, simply because Google picks this up. Okay. And by the way, stop me at any given time if you have any questions. I know I go pretty fast, but it's just because we only have an hour and I want to make sure that we cover as much as we can. Hi, Mark. Okay. Opening date. So why is this important? If I go back to the search results, you'll see here that basically the information that Google gives us or presents the user with is what they believe is important for a user to make a decision. So obviously star ratings is important. If I would get like, 1 or 2 star ratings out of 100, people will kind of go like, they're not getting great ratings. So I'm probably not going to, spend my time reaching out to them because they potentially are not the right type of business to work with. So star ratings is important, but it's not a ranking factor. It's more a decision-making factor for the actual end consumer. You can see here, we've only got 26 reviews. The next guys up have 242 reviews, but we're still outranking them. So whilst reviews are important, Google knows that it's very easy for somebody to fake a review. Like I can pay somebody $20 overseas, and within a week I'll have 100 5-star ratings on my profile. So take those with a grain of salt. You quite often see the fake profiles come through in the reviews really easily. It also goes into the negative aspect. So you can actually hire the same person for $20 to get 100 reviews, and they'll be 1 or 2 star ratings. So that's sometimes what competitors do to each other, unfortunately, depending on the business that you're in. So Google knows this, and they basically keep that in mind when it comes to ranking. So the next thing that's important to them then obviously is the category. So cleaning service is still the main category here, as you can see. And that's what I said before. They wanted me to change the previous category that we have. They said they no longer use. It still actually shows up on the listing. So I'm like, yeah, no, Google, I'm gonna stay with this because I know you're trying to trick me. Anyway. Next thing that's important then is how many years have these people been in business? So 15 plus years in business, that number gets derived from when the business got started. So opening date is 15th of January 2008. So back in January, before the 15th this year, this said 10 plus years in business, but because it was then 15 years, they basically made the skip from 10 plus to 15 plus. Now, what happens is typically the younger a business is, the less likely, and not the less likely, but like how long a business has been around is a big trust factor, right? Like, would you agree when you look at a competitor to say, well, these guys have been around for 15 plus years, these guys have been around for 3 years. If everything else was the same, I would probably reach out to the 15 plus years in business simply because they've been around for a long time, which means there must be a decent business, right? That they've been around for so long. Whereas the 3 plus is, they might be a bit newer. It is an indication of trust. Phone number is obviously an important thing that people want to see. Opening times is important, especially when you have a store, like a brick and mortar where people come to. You want to make sure that your opening hours are always accurate and up to date, because there's nothing worse than on a Saturday afternoon, getting into the car, opening up Google Maps, going to the store that you wanted to go to because Google says it's open. And then you get there and it's like, we're actually closed. We closed at 1 o'clock instead of 4. So it's important to have your opening hours accurate, because what can happen is somebody might do that whole drive and they come down there and it's closed. They will actually report the listing, right? They'll go into the listing and they'll make a report to say, well, actually, we have suggestions. Like there's an actual thing like suggest and edit. Edit the name, the location, the hours. So I can go in here and say, well, actually, I was here on a Saturday and it doesn't seem to be open on Saturdays. So the more of these reports Google gets from the audience, from people that are using Google, the more likely it is that Google is going to scrutinize the listing and say, well, hey, we're trying to be the most relevant search engine on the planet. And if we can't give people relevant results, so if the results that people are getting from us are not actually correct, we're going to look bad. So what Google does is they're going to reassess where that ranking should be. And they're going to say, well, you know what, instead of number 2, we're going to put you on number 10 because we're not 100% confident that people are actually getting what they need when they get your search result. So make sure that your opening hours are always, not just your opening hours, all your information is always up to date and accurate. So you don't attract people suggesting edits or even bad reviews sometimes. Does that make sense? I know it sounds simple, but it's a thing. If you want to keep that prestigious listing of that high, you want to make sure that you have everything up to date and accurate, because that's what Google craves. And by the way, I still haven't had any questions besides the physical address, which is probably the next one I'm going to get into. Yeah. Okay, so phone number. Yes, I will keep going. Phone number here, obviously, there's a few options here. You can add a couple of phone numbers. People sometimes ask me, look, if I'm in Perth, but I'm trying to have a Sydney-based audience or business clientele, do I need to get like a landline number in Sydney? And I would always say, look, once again, same with the reviews. It's very easy for somebody anywhere in the world to get a phone number anywhere in the world, right? So I can register a phone number that's a New South Wales phone number that shows up on my website, but I can still be here physically based in Perth. So Google knows this. I would always say, make sure that you just have the phone number here that actually is attended to 24/7. Like, you need to make sure that whoever is going to ring from this profile, the business profile, actually gets through to a person. We've had some lead campaigns in the past where we would run Google ads for certain clients, and we're talking about thousands of dollars of budget. And whilst we were getting the clicks and the traffic and everything was going great, they weren't happy. And we figured out after a couple of weeks that the phone number they gave us for the leads to call them. So we would run these ads to a landing page and say, call us now, here's our number. It turned out that that phone number, there was a part-time intern, I think, who managed that number, and they were only there 2 days a week, and they quite often just didn't even check the phone. So all these leads were basically ringing and not getting anywhere. So I would always say, if you have a number out there that people can call, make sure that it is a number that you have 24/7 access to, and you're actually you get the right person. So this might be a business development manager, this might be yourself. Somebody needs to be able to answer that phone as soon as it rings, because essentially it's like the bat phone. It is a lead on the other end who wants to get more information, right? So it's important to have that. You can have an additional phone number if you want. So you can have your primary number and there may be an office number or a different store number, whatever that might be. So you can add those in. Website, self-explanatory, just put your domain link in here. That's all. Yeah, there's no real thought behind it. Make sure that you get the right website. Short name is no longer used, so we can't even edit this anymore. We can delete it, but this used to be like your username on Google, Google Plus. I don't know if somebody still can remember that. A few years ago, when Google tried to do their own social media network. So basically we can delete this, but once again, we don't make any changes to this profile because it is number one. It doesn't make any sense for us to make any changes. Okay, business location. This is where we get to the address. So there's an option here. We can slide that button here and we can say, right, we want to show this business address to our customers. And this could be if you actually have an office or a store, a place of business. Typically though, if I speak to a small business owner who works from home, they kind of go like, well, I kind of don't really want people to know where I live. That's 100% understandable, but this is where you basically then turn that off, right? You can say, look, the business address, Google still knows where you are. Like, you've already verified with Google. So even if the address doesn't show up on your listing, Google will still know that if somebody looks for, say, tile cleaners in Perth, that you are physically located in Perth. Like, Google knows this, so they will still show your listing. Now, the other thing you can do here is the service area in that case. So the service areas, typically what I would recommend is add the major capital city that you're currently in. So in this case, Perth, because quite often people, even though they're in Perth or in a suburb in Perth, like say Leederville, somebody might look for tile cleaners in Leederville, but sometimes they would still actually use Perth because it's just the city they're in, right? So to capture that traffic, to make sure that we still get in front of those people, I would always use the capital city, and then I would say add the closest surrounding suburbs that you want to work in as a close second. So in Scott's case, my client here, this is sort of the areas that he wants to work in, and what that looks like on the map essentially is. Where are we? The dirty brown. I click, no, here we go. I click on this one. Where did the map results go? It's actually not showing the map results. Okay, so sometimes it actually has like the little, the line around the areas or the suburbs that you're trying to target. So that's basically what it's going to show up as. Let me use this on the home page, Google. Okay, near me. So no, it's not going to show up. No. Okay, sometimes on the map it actually has like the profile indicator around it, but in this case it's not showing. It's probably on a mobile device. Anyway, so does this make sense? Capital city plus then some of these suburbs that you want to work in. Now, sometimes people say, well, I kind of work online and I have clients everywhere. Then just instead of the capital cities, I would have additionally add Australia or New Zealand or whatever. Well, obviously not a different country, but Australia as the main thing, and then add your capital cities. So that's sort of how you break that down to make sure that Google knows where, or people know where your services are being provided. Okay, so yeah, in order for you to be verified, you will have to give when you set up your account, you will have to put in your address where you can actually receive a physical postcard. So typically postcard will get sent out after you try to verify your profile within a week. It's basically just a 4-digit number or a 6-digit number that says, hey, once you get the postcard, come back to here, click on verify your profile, put in that code, and then your profile is verified. Sometimes when you set up a new account these days, it's a bit easier. They just send you a text message on your phone number, depending if your phone has already been used on a Google service before. There's a few of those things I look at, but yeah, sometimes you get lucky and you can just do it directly on a phone. And then you can choose to show or hide your profile, your address. Make sense so far? All right, so we've got the opening hours here. Same thing that I just mentioned. Make sure that these are up to date. And I would always recommend at least once a month, just jump in here and see, set yourself a reminder, check my Google business profile, because sometimes we get busy and you decide all of a sudden, look, we're going to be closed on Monday mornings from now on, but you'd never think about updating your Google business profile. So once a month, jump in here and say, oh, actually, I need to change Mondays because we decided to close on Monday morning for whatever reason. Make sure these are accurate because, like I said, your ranking will get impacted. Okay, so a few other things here. The more section is typically kind of stuff that's a hot topic in politics or in the news. This changes from time to time. So when COVID was a big thing a few years ago, this said all about like, do you have to wear a mask when you get to our store? How many people are allowed at the same time in the store? So whatever happens, what's a politically hot item at the moment, or one of those things, you can basically see that in here. So keep an eye on this as well. Sometimes you can make changes in here. Okay, so that's your basic how to edit your profile. Now I'm going to go into messages, like I mentioned in the beginning. So messages, and I'm going to show you what this looks like when somebody would actually send through a message, and you can decide for yourself whether this is something you would like to use, yes or no. So once we load this up, well, my cat's asleep. It's amazing. Once this loads up, what happens is you can see here that a few people have sent through some quotes. So they would have gone to the profile, they would have clicked on the send message or get a quote button. That doesn't show up in here, but it will show up on a mobile device most likely. And what it means is like, okay, so Jane Steele wanted to get a deep clean service. So one of the services we have is deep clean. In Florida, she wants to get a quote for tile and grout cleaning. So here's Jane's number, and what it means is that Scott can, as you can see here, he replied to her a little bit later, and he basically just gave her a call and said, okay, this is how much it costs, this is how long it takes, and it's either a yes or a no on the phone. So the thing here is as well, so we actually cleared out a lot of the archived messages. He had a lot more messages before. But you can see some of these are a little bit more expensive. So it's like you say, we've got tiles throughout, bedrooms and lounge, 2 bathrooms, one of them is a combination and laundry. So Scott already knows sort of what to expect, and he will reach out to these people when he has the time. The other thing is, what people get, sorry, I've got something in my throat. So what people get when they send a message, let me just get a quick drink in, too much talking. All right. So what happens is people will actually get a message when they click on send a message. The welcome message they receive is this. Hey, the best way to reach me at the moment is to call me on this number if you're looking for a quote. Cheers, Scott. So what it means is somebody send a message to Scott and they can see here, because we send the read receipts, that he might not have actually seen the message yet. Which means then, okay, so if they're in a hurry, they might actually just see this message and they can tap on this number, right? So this number will be clickable on a mobile device and they can tap it and then either select, make a phone call or send a text message. So Scott also gets these messages after people open the chat here. They would still directly message him or just give him a phone call regardless, right? So this is why we capture certain people that would have otherwise dropped off, that would have said, look, it's been 2 hours and he still hasn't replied to my message. I'm going to go somewhere else. Now it's like, okay, it's been 2 hours. He hasn't replied to my message. I'm going to tap on this number because he gave me the next steps to get in touch with him, right? So this is typically why you would have that enabled. Some other things you can do here, you can have some frequently asked questions to the actual chat. So this is not your frequently asked questions on your mini website. This is purely in the chat. So somebody might ask a question here that's relevant to your business that you get all the time. Like, is there free parking on site? Do you have Wi-Fi? Whatever question you might come across consistently, you can have that question set up in here. And what it means is if somebody opens up the chat, it'll have a pre-populated question to say, are you looking to answer to the following questions? Is there free parking on site? Yes, there is. Is there Wi-Fi available? Yes, there is. So this basically gives people the information they're looking for without you having to jump in and helping them with those questions, right? So it's a big time saver. Highly recommended to just flick your messages on simply because it is worth it. It actually captures a few people who otherwise would have left. In order to set this up, just click on the 3 dots on the top right-hand side and you go to chat settings here. And this is where you say, okay, change up your automated message here, etc. and so forth. Turn the chat on and off. Yeah, pretty self-explanatory, I think. Does it all make sense so far? I'm looking at the time. We still got 13 minutes left, so I'm going to have to go even quicker now. I really should make these an hour and a half or 2 hours at least, because there's so much information to go through. Okay, so we covered the edit profile. We went through your messages. We went through the performance to see how that all works. Okay, let's go into services quickly. And services here, like I said, you have your primary category, cleaning service. Once again, Google said it doesn't exist anymore, but yet here we are, it's still there. Then it says add the services that we offered and to get discovered by customers. So what we can do, some of these services, at the moment, it looks like they've basically removed all our services simply because the category thing. And once again, I'm not going to change that. So we'll see where we end up in a few weeks. But what you can do here, you can say, right, we do, for example, deep clean. We can add that as a service. We can't see any of our other services. So we're going to say tile cleaning. We can add that as a custom service. We could say grout cleaning. I can't type this morning, cleaning. We can say grout restoration. And we can keep going, right? So if we're going to say, right, we're going to add these services, which is fine because these were the previous services we had anyway. I can't actually save it because the primary category. Anyway, that's I'll do that after the session. But yeah, this is just to show you, if you don't see the service that they suggest, you can add whatever service you would like manually. Make sense? Okay, services done, bookings. If you have a booking link, so this could be like a Calendly or whatever online booking system you might have, and people actually need to make an appointment before they can see you. This is where you would have a link. That link would then show up underneath your overview. It'll have like an additional link in here. It's got the website link, but it also has the booking or make an appointment link that'll show up there. Q&As. So Q&As are essentially on your mini website, so your profile itself, you can see all questions that people have been asking. Similar to your frequently asked questions, but because this is part of your website, so to speak, I would suggest do the same thing here. Is there free parking on site? Yes, there is. Any client that comes down for the service or the products that we provide has an hour worth of free parking, whatever it might be. The reason you would want to ask questions, you can actually ask your own questions and answer your own questions here, is that you'll have more content on that mini web page. So once again, the keywords that you'd be using will be picked up by Google to say, right, there's, besides the About Us section or the description, the question section has a lot of keywords, once again, that are very relevant to the actual service that these people are providing. So it's just an additional signal to Google to say this is highly relevant. So we're going to show you higher than some of these other listings. Now, obviously, this question here is just from somebody from the public, so to speak. Somebody had just tiles finished, there's some grout residue. They want to see if we can remove that. Now, Scott never answered this. He can answer, he can like it, but essentially, I would say if you have a lot of typical questions, just ask them. Like, you can literally go into your own profile, ask them, and then you can answer them. It just adds more content to the actual page. Okay, bookings, Q&As we went through, and then ask for reviews. This is an easy one. So if you click on the ask for reviews, you're going to get a static link, a review link here, which I can copy, and I'll show you exactly what this does. If I open up a new tab and I put that link in, all it does is it'll take people directly to your listing and the actual star rating form. So back in the day, you'd have to say to someone, hey, can you leave me a 5-star review? Yeah, that's fine. They would actually have to go to Google, find your business, go to Google Maps, click on your reviews, add a review. So they had to go through a bunch of steps before they could actually leave a review. And we all know that time is precious, and if I have to do more than one thing for someone else, it's going to be more likely that I won't actually do the thing. So I've sent them this link directly. As you can see, they don't have to think. They literally just get the form in front of them. They can leave the review. Their star rating, they can say, okay, what did I like about this business? Did I use this business? The experiences and some of these photos. Now, what that will show up as under the review section, obviously here, is we can see that, for example, this client here left a review and left the keywords, so professionalism, punctuality, quality, blah, blah, blah. It also even left a photo to say, hey, look how good this photo of our new floor now is, right? So it's all great content, because this is, once again, all these keywords are part of the actual mini site now. Plus, we can actually see what sort of language our ideal clients are using. So grimy floors, for example, general dirt buildup. We look at some of these keywords and go like, hey, we're trying to rank for top in Perth, but we could potentially use the keywords in here. Let's say, have you got a grimy floor, or are you tired of looking at your grimy floor with all the dirt that's been built up over the last 5 years? Why don't you get our tile cleaners to come and fix it? So this is a great section here as well to kind of understand really what your clients are looking for, what the keywords are that they use, and this is something you can use within your actual messaging and marketing later down the track if you want to do so. All right, I think we got a few minutes left, so reviews done, and then the last one here I just wanted to jump into probably is updates. So we can add updates to our profiles, and I'll show you a different client here actually who added products. Just to give you an indication of what else you can do as a store, for example. Business. I'm going to go through, pick a e-com store. Grab this one. Okay, so this is another profile that we are currently working on. This is a new client. One of the main things we started doing with them is we started adding their products to the actual store. So there's an option here to say what's in store. And what it means is, copy this. What it means is people can actually, without going to your website or your online store, they can visit your profile and they can see not just photos, the inside and outside bits and pieces, but they can also actually see, I don't think this is the right link. They can also see the products that you have available. So if I search for this business, for example, on Google as a normal section, this should come up under maps. Very interesting. It's not actually showing what I was going to show you. Oh, in-store shopping. No. Okay, this is typically Google. When I try to show something, they've changed a layout and I can't find it anymore. That's so good. I'm just going to jump back into the store here, what we've done for this particular business, we actually added all their products to the store itself. So you can see here on the bottom right, I'm not sure if my chat is in the way, on the bottom right here. So this is their entire profile, and then we have all their products uploaded. So for example, if I click on everyday address, all the information is right here on Google. Like, we're not even on their website yet. People can go through all these photos here. They can see the pricing, they can see the return policy, they can see if it's in stock, yes or no. If they want to go ahead and say, hey, I want to know more, and I want to probably buy this, they can click on the website link, and that's not working. So I'm probably going to have to jump into that, fix that afterwards. But they can click on the link, and then what happens is they would directly go to the actual product page on, is it this one? No, what? It's interesting. I'm not sure why that's new as well. That shouldn't be there. So website basically just takes people to the main website, but essentially we would have a link in here that goes directly to the product itself. So another great way for you to utilize Google, simply because you can actually have your products in front of people for free. And, you know, pricing is here, they can see the photo. It's more than likely that if they click on it, the pricing is probably not an issue, and they probably will go ahead and make an inquiry. Okay, so that's pretty much the time we have. I know there's a lot of stuff we covered. I'm going to leave you with one more thing. What's it called? There's a tool that we can use. So I can only cover so much in an hour, right? Like, that's basically physics. But if we would go into, there's a site here called Bright Local. And if you want to, I'm going to put that in the chat for you, actually, brightlocal.com. If you visit the site after this session, you've got some time, I would recommend going to the Insights section and then go through the Learn section, and you'll find there's a lot of information here that is completely free. That'll basically goes through everything like introduction, how to get started, how to get ranked better, how to do your reporting, how to look at your competitors. Like, there's a lot of information here which is completely free. So this is a great resource to basically continue where we're basically about to leave. They've got some options here as well. They've got a tool that you can use that is basically a business insights tool, business data tool, to show you like how you're ranking, what are you currently, what are your competitors ranking for. There's a lot of stuff in here that obviously I can't cover right now, but have a look at this when you have the time. This is one of the tools that I would recommend to every single business owner out there, simply because this does the job. It's a fair price. It's a very straightforward value proposition, and it actually does a lot of the stuff that we just covered for you, and it'll show you exactly what needs to be done. Okay, so if there's no other questions, it was a very easy session. Thank you for that. I'm going to say this is going to be recorded and it'll be uploaded to our YouTube channel in a couple of days. I do one of these every 2 weeks. Next week, I'll do how to get started with Facebook ads and how to actually run your Facebook ads properly instead of just clicking the boost button. So hope you enjoyed this session, and I'm going to say have a great day and a great week, and I might catch you in the next one. Thanks for joining, and see you later.